Hello, welcome to the expert testimony video by Team UK Mistral Bank. I'm Charles Leon, presenting on behalf of the group. The agenda for this presentation is to look at the Five Eyes Alliance nations. We'll also provide an overview of the projects 1, 2, and 3 and all of the deliverables within those for those projects. We will also be looking at the expert testimony, which will be provided by the Digital Forensic Examiner. And then we will conclude with questions, comments, and suggestions. The Five Eyed Nations are the United Kingdom, the United States of America, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. These nations have a bilateral relationship and they have an agreement in that they've all agreed to collaborate together in collecting intelligence information and analyzing these informations and also sharing the information with each other. The information sharing is going to be able to ensure that these nations can have a common goal as to fighting global cyber crimes. They also agree to work together to improve the security best practices. Some of the international standards, security standards around the globe. These five nations are committed to working together to strengthen and enhance those practices and also cybersecurity principles. They will also ensure that intelligence gathering and sharing strictly adheres to each of those nations' national security policies and concerns. This is very important because even though there is a bilateral relationship and there is an agreement to in it's also important that in doing so, you also respect the rules and the laws of that particular country. And you do not want to share any information or behave in a manner that will hurt or put that particular country national security in jeopardy. Project One basically dealt with setting up the networks in order to make sure that the summit, the Global Economic Summit, is secure, and also some of the policies, laws, and regulations were also examined and put in place to ensure that the summit is conducted in a secure manner. And because of the sensitivity and the high-profile nature of the summit is, a prime target for cyber criminals. So a security baseline analysis report was conducted to ensure that and all the devices that's connected to the network um, meet the basic security requirements. Health checks were conducted to ensure that those devices meet the network security policy requirements to be on the networks and to ensure that there's no vulnerabilities in those software and also applications that were connecting or communicating with the networks. Also, the transnational legal compliance report was conducted to ensure that all the nations that were participating in the summit adhered to um, the standard established by the United Kingdom. Incident response plan and reporting was also implemented to ensure that in the event that there is a cyber attack, and there is already a team responsible to respond to any cyber incident that may happen. Well, Project 2 basically dealt with some of the behaviors of other nations not acting responsibly. Perhaps getting involved into some sort of either cyber espionage or some sort of nation actor sort of behavior and stuff like that. So a vulnerabilities and risk matrix was conducted in Project 2 Basically, what was done in that was that the entire infrastructure that was hosting this summit uh, was assessed for any potential vulnerabilities in the system, networks, devices, hardware, software, and applications, and even peripheral devices also, and perimeter devices were also or analyzed or assessed to find also risk, potential risk that may be out there. Also, the vulnerability assessment and risk matrix was also conducted to see that what are the likelihood of those risks or that may occur during the summit, and even if it does actualize, what is the potential impact that it may have on the summit. Server level agreements were also conducted to ensure that in the case of a cyber attack, and how quickly can the team resolve the issue. SLA is really just give a specific time frame as to how long it takes before the response team can actually respond to an incident and actually resolve it. In the case of the summit, because of the sensitivity of some of the information that was being shared at the summit, and because of the high profile nature, the SLA has to be extremely high, and because there's just no tolerance for a low response time. The Five Eyes Nations indication sharing report also was conducted to see how efficient and how effective and how securely that those information are shared between those nations that are involved. Well, at the Project 3 level, at this point, there's the system lockdown or the network lockdown phase. The business continuity plan was drafted and implemented. At the business continuity plan was to ensure that and after the attack has happened, what can the organization do to continue to function, and that all business functions and business operations continue to function at almost close, so if not a complete normal level. And the situational reports was also conducted to see what actually transpired during the whole attack, how it happened, and who was behind it. And it's a whole step-by-step process as to how it all went down. And the forensic investigation report was also conducted, looking at all the devices that was involved, collecting metadata and collecting real information, IP addresses, in order to tie that into specific nations that may be responsible. That's how the attribution report was done, to see whether or not which country and that was really behind the attack. So the forensic investigation really gave the team an idea as to the depth of the attack, uh, the extent of the attack, and also it gave the team the ability to really learn more about some of the tools and techniques and some of the methodologies that was used during the attacks. The cyber operations and risk management briefing was conducted, covering everything from all of the different things that was exposed during the attacks, and how what the organization could have done to actually prevent those attacks. The briefing really gives us a risk management approach so that the organization can implement some of these things going forward to protect itself from this type of attack in the future. So the types of cyber attacks against the summit. Um, Distributed denial of service attacks uh, was one of the forms of attacks that were uh, levied against the summit. Denial of service attacks, um, the primary objective behind the denial of service attacks is just to make the system completely unavailable. In most cases, it's not about uh, it is not about you know gaining access to sensitive data or anything like that. The primary objective of denial of service attack is just to cause system downtime and also bring the system down, make it unavailable for folks to be able to use it. So data exfiltration was one of the attacks. After the system was compromised, the attacker were also able to exfiltrate data, basically moving sensitive data from the system to an offshore location or maybe to a remote location. So that's basically what data exfiltration is. And once you attack the system and you gain access to the system, unauthorized access to the system, and depending on the type of data that you're interested in, the next thing is to have to copy that data, then move that data remotely to a whole new remote location. Ransomware attack was also one of the forms of attacks. Ransomware attack, again, one of the primary reasons for ransomware attack is for financial gains. It's really not geared towards data access to sensitive data, anything like that. It's more geared towards locking the system up or making the system completely unusable to force the management to actually pay a ransom in order to make the system once again useful for them. So those were the three forms of attacks that was levied against the summit. Well, things get a little bit difficult. Well, first of all, the question is, what are the legal challenges associated with cyber incidents involving foreign countries? Things get a little bit difficult when the foreign country that is suspected of uh, behaving in such a manner is an ally of the country that is being attacked. It's the challenges then is that it's difficult for you to retaliate, and also with the bilateral relationship and with the alliance between those two countries, you have to make sure that you do not, whatever you do not destroy the relationship between those two countries, because there may be some economic sabotage that could go on if that relationship get tarnished. So I think that's one of the challenges of dealing with a foreign countries, especially a country that is an ally. Now, a country that is not an ally, that's almost never a difficult case because, of course, all sorts of things can happen. There's legal implications, there's sanctions, there could be tariffs can be put onto that country, or even in worst case, there could be a retaliation. Um, how do internal laws affect e-discovery? Well, first of all, e-discovery is a tool used to do some forensic extracting information from a foreign soil. There are some countries that has a very strict policies with giving our information, even when it comes to extraditions and stuff like that. So it just depends again what really the country is. Again, if there is a country that has a relationship or it is an ally of the particular country that has been affected, again that makes it a little bit hairy because again you just have to be respectful of the domestic laws of that particular country. You have to be respectful to them. You have to seek permissions. You have to work with them collaboratively in order to help you also to get the kind of information that you're looking to get from that particular country. Expert testimony question number 2. It says, what are the legal challenges of accessing and retrieving electronic evidence stored on foreign soil? Well, if the evidence that you're looking for is on the foreign soil, so let's say the United Kingdom is attacked by, let's say, the United States, and the United States is an ally of the UK, and the perpetrator actually does live in the United States. Now, it may not be in a case where the UK, the US is a nation state actor, or maybe it's a state sponsored attack, but it just could be maybe some hacking groups that are in the United States that perform the attack against the UK, or it just could be an individual who did the attack, but that individual is maybe a US citizen, or at least they do reside in the United States. So those type of evidence gathering, maybe there's IP addresses, there are devices that host the evidence. It's not that difficult. Again, once you are an ally, it's always never a difficult situation because I think the other country is almost always willing to work with you to resolve those type of issues. Now, in a case where there is an hostility between those other two countries, let's say, for example, the United States and North Korea, or the UK and North Korea, stuff like that, where there isn't really any good relationship between those two countries. Now that makes it extremely difficult. The challenges are huge because, first of all, there's absolutely no visibility in that particular environment. There's no relationship at all, so it becomes increasingly difficult to retrieve that evidence from that source. In fact, in many cases, you may never even get your hands on that evidence. And there's just almost never a way around it. You could use other incentives. Different diplomatic measures can be taken to kind of try to lure the other country to turn over the evidence. There's so many political and diplomatic methodologies can be used in the case where there's a hostility between the two countries in order to get the evidence that you need. Um, Assuming cloud storage was used, what procedures would follow to access and retrieve digital evidence stored in the cloud? Well, it depends. If it is a private cloud or it's a public cloud, if it's a public cloud, it's pretty straightforward. You just have to, first of all, regardless of whether it's in the public cloud, private cloud, but if the particular user is from that particular country, you just have to seek the justice system of that particular country, and then it could be subpoenaed. The cloud provider can be subpoenaed to turn over the evidence. Well, with respect to the United Kingdom, and doing the attribution report after the extensive forensic analysis, where we determined that the attack did come from several other countries, some of which are China, North Korea, Iran, and stuff like that. Those are countries that are hostile to the United Kingdom. So obtaining the evidence in those countries were extremely difficult. And of getting international laws, there really isn't standard international laws governing some of these things. So basically, you just have to work locally with the particular country itself and work with the authorities in that country and help you to get the kind of evidence that you need. In the case of getting the evidence from other countries that are friendly to you, maybe like the United States or Venezuela, uh, Canada, New Zealand, those are countries that are fairly friendly to the United Kingdom. So it's pretty straightforward. It's a fairly easy game to just kind of reach out to the particular country, work with the justice systems and the justice department in that country that will help you to be able to get information. Expert testimony question number 4. What conflicts arose between ethics and international laws during the forensic investigation? There weren't conflicts because the entire process, the entire forensic investigation, information gathering, um, the whole chain of custody process was absolutely ethical. We followed the all ethical approaches to ensure that we're following and adhering to all national and international standards, practices, and policies. So there weren't any conflict that arose between ethics and international laws because we ensured that, first of all, we were very knowledgeable about the various international laws governing the type of process that we had to follow. And also, we also adhere to all ethical standards with respect to gathering forensic investigation, conducting forensic investigations, and gathering information, how to contain that information, how to ensure that the information is not corrupt, in order to safeguard the information to be admissible in court, which is the whole part of the chain of custody process. So all that process was followed uh, ethically. So there was absolutely no conflict arose. And how did these conflicts affect the investigations? As I just said, there were any conflicts. And in almost in all cases, you want to make sure that there isn't a conflict when it comes to these type of issues, because again, when there's international laws that weren't followed, or even there's any ethical breach, anything like that, it just makes your case inadmissible in court. So you may not have a very good case when because it's difficult to present a case to a country to say, hey, we need to prosecute a certain individual in your country. But the question comes up: how did you derive at the conclusion that this particular individual is responsible? So you had to present to the court of that country and what process was followed, and then they will be examined to ensure that all international laws were followed correctly, and that the whole process was completely ethical. And how were the conflicts mitigated and resolved? And again, there was no conflict. What steps were taken to protect United States soil and citizens during the international investigation? Um, uh, the steps that were taken basically is to ensure the very first thing is to ensure that the process was fair, that it was ethical, and that it was justifiable, and that all of the processes were followed correctly. That the justice systems of that particular country was involved, that we did the investigation in good faith. Describe any risk to the country, business, or citizens from your investigation. Uh, the only potential risk to the country, businesses, citizens from investigation could be, again, like I said earlier, um, it depends if there isn't any relationship between those two countries. There could be retaliation, um, and there could be tariffs, and which could affect businesses and how those two countries conduct business, export and import business and stuff like that. Also, citizens from that country could uh, politicize the situation. There could be animosity between the two countries and stuff like that. I'll now take this time to answer any questions you may have. Um, and if you don't have any questions, comments, or suggestions, at this time, I want to say thank you.